Another section in the 401 is the solo control. The solo control is accessed by the solo control button. Here I can set up my solo and how I specifically want it. Up at the top I have momentary, I have summing, and inner cancel. That's what IC stands for. Momentary allows me to do a momentary push on the solo button and then I can release it. Summing means that I can sum several channels together on a solo and listen to that. Solo is also called Q in some places. Inner cancel means if I select one and then select another one on a different channel strip, the other one will go off. And we'll explain those a little bit later. The other choices I have here are APL, which stands for After Pan Listen, PFL, and Solo in Place. Now, most of the time for broadcasters, you should be on PFL. And this is something to check when you reboot the console or when you know when the engineering staff has rebooted the console. You need to make sure that your solo is in PFL. Otherwise, you will have a destructive solo. Also in this page is where you can turn on your backstop PFL. This is done by this button up here. If it's lit, it means that your backstop PFL will be on. If it's off, it won't be. Right below the backstop PFL is something that's called Solo Safe. Solo Safe allows me to solo safe reverb units in a solo in place mode, so we're in a destructive solo mode. So in other words, if I solo a vocal and it has a reverb on it, then I'll be able to hear that reverb unit still, even though I have that vocal soloed. Most of the time, broadcasters never ever use this feature. To set up Solo Safe, all you have to do is select Solo Safe, and then on any channel strip you want to set up the Solo Safe, you select the Solo button. This will turn on the Solo Safe on those channel strips. As I said before, most broadcasters use PFL, so you probably will never ever use this feature. Further down the right hand side of this page, you have Dim Control Room, so that anytime you solo something, it will actually dim the control room monitors. This is great for if you have solo speakers or Q speakers. So if you have another set of solo speakers or Q speakers, those will be louder than your actual monitor speakers. Once you turn the solo off, then your monitors come back up. That's what Dim Control Room does. Further down the page, I have Solo None, Solo Alt 1, Solo Alt 2, or Solo Follow. Depending on what speaker selector you are using, you can actually assign your solo to either come out your Alt 1 speakers, your Alt 2 speakers, none of the speakers, or Solo Follow. So depending on which speaker set that you have, the solo will follow, or your Q will follow whatever speaker selectors you have set up. Another section in the 401 I want to talk about is the Quick Panel. The Quick Panel allows me to do communications very quickly, so that I don't have to go into my communications page. I may not have time. What I can do is I can select either the comms, I can select all talk, the latch of my listen mics, or I can actually turn on an oscillator if I want to. Going back to my comms page, I can either listen to my first listen mic, I can listen to all my listen mics, or I can talk to my B monitor, my A monitor, or talk to all of my monitors. Secondly, on the talk page, I can go to there and say, okay, now I have all of my monitors here, A, B, C, and D, which, remember, we talked about those before. That can be an external feed. I can latch these so that if I use the latch button here, I can then latch all of these to be on. People will hear me, so just remember, you need to turn that latch off to turn those off, because otherwise that will stick on. The listen page, I can listen latch all of my listen mics if I have listen mics set up, and I can unlatch them just as well. The last page, the Slate Oscillator page, I can send my oscillator to my groups, my oscillator, my mix, or my aux